Greetings YouTube and welcome to the Blue Corner and to a Cardfight deck profile, and today's deck is going to be something that I didn't think I'd be playing in 2018, all things considered, but here we are. G Set 14 has come out, and much like the original Set 14, I'm playing Genesis in the form of Regalia and Angelica Minerva. And yeah, it's been a good solid 4 years since the last time I featured these two cards on the channel. In fact, I still have my old Angelica and Minerva here, but yeah, the two are back, and at this time, I think they're actually the best Genesis variant going forward. Granted, that's also because Bushiroad's dropped the ball on generic G Genesis, Revelation, Fenrir, Amaruta, all that kind of stuff. So instead, we have, well, just a revamped Minerva deck, and what we have here is actually not a bad deck in itself. One thing's for certain, you don't expect to put this up against, say, the top decks of the format, such as Gears, Nubas, Victor, Deleters, Shaharlot, well, maybe that one, but don't expect this to go up against the really powerful decks that are running the roost in the format and expect to win all of your games, but you might be able to get a couple games off of them. But against decks of the power level of, say, Luard, yeah, you've got a reasonable chance of beating them, and quite handily too, as the stuff that this clan got, or rather this deck got out of this set, is actually pretty good quality, and it's relatively inexpensive to build too. Most of this deck here is just built off of what you got out of this set. I've got a couple old cards in here, but truth be told, you can get by without them. And as far as the concept of the deck itself, you're just basically playing a beatdown strat. I'm playing high crits, and I just want to end my games by the second Minerva turn. After that, I kind of just run out of gas and die, but truth be told, if I've gone through two of my strides, then that means my opponent's probably going into their second or third stride turn, which means I'm dealing with the likes of GB3 Rene, Heritage, Drake Strider, etc., etc. So, yeah, I'm quite fine with this playstyle. The Regalia deck has never really been known for having a long game, and I'm not going to try and change that here. So, with that being said, let's dive right into this. So this will be a breakdown of the deck and things you can do, much like I have done with other stuff in the past, and it begins with the Forerunner, which is Regalia of Dawn, Daylight Angel. Daylight Angel allows you to count +1, throw into the soul, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, put one of them into the soul, and then you discard the rest. If you put a Regalia into the soul this way, you draw a card. It's not GB, which is great against removal clans, and it just helps set you up for the playstyle of Regalia, which is you toolbox cards from your drop zone back into the soul, rather than just excessive amounts of soul charging like with other Genesis variants. I've always liked that kind of strat, and, well, Daylight helps you because you get basically 4 cards out of deck off of this thing, and yeah, you don't have to worry about it getting sniped or locked or stunned, because chances are you're going to shove it into the soul at first chance. And then for the grade 3s, 4 copies of Angelica, a retrain of the Break Ride, and much like the old one, this one looks a bit like Regalia from Final Fantasy IV and Terra from Final Fantasy VI, which is always a good thing in my books. So, Angelica's skill is on Ride. Choose a normal Regalia in your drop zone, put it into your soul, and if you do, draw a card, and then our on stride is kind of +1. If you stride a Regalia unit, may pay cost. If you do, look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You add 1 to hand, put 1 in the soul, and ditch the other 2. So, the starter sets this up quite nicely. You can just look at the top 3, put something into the soul, put a normal unit in drop zone, then ride Angelica the next turn, put the card back in and draw. And Angelica itself thins your deck out by 4, sets up your drop zone for your rear guards and G guards. And being able to just grab one of those top 4 cards and put it in your hand is nice, a little bit of toolboxing here. Definitely some good cards worth running in here. Then for the backup grade 3, I am running Regalia of Activity in Nong. I don't like running Verthandi as it does nothing on rearguard, and if you're not on Angelica, I feel like you're not really going to be doing a whole lot with the deck. So I'd much rather just run a grade 3 backup that actually does something, and Anon has the ability to, when you discard it for stride and you have a Regalia Vanguard, you can put it into the soul from your drop zone in order to buff your Vanguard by 10. It's pretty simple, but it makes your Vanguard base 36, which is really nice for just hitting good numbers. Now, if you're in a more rush-heavy format, like you've got multiple Deleter players or Nova Grapplers or just decks that will put you to 4 early, you could actually cut some of these Indons out and run the original Minerva in, who is a cross-ride of Angelica because it's the same name. And Minerva's Limit Break is not bad by any stretch. It's kind of +1, Soul Blast 3, Discard 3, Restand, and get +5. It's only once per turn, though. And she's got Lord too, so your opponent can't dominate it, but yeah, like otherwise I just like these 7 grade 3s. Then for the grade 2s, for Regalia of Abundance Freya, skill is Counterblast 1. When you place it on a mirror and you have a grade 3 Regalia Vanguard, you can draw a card and then choose up to 2 Regalia in your drop zone and put them to the soul. So it is basically a Chimera that also draws you cards. And our other skill is Generation Break 2. When your Regalia Vanguard attacks, she gets +3. It's not restricted to once per turn, and as we all know, Minerva cards are all about that restanding goodness, so this will be 15 on your Minerva turns. Then backing up for you, we've got Regalia of Poem Bragi, who is Generation Break 1. When placed on mirror, you have a Regalia Vanguard. Choose up to 2 cards with Regalia from the drop zone, put them into the soul, and for each card put into the soul through this way, this in the Vanguard get +3 until end of turn. So it caps at 15 and makes your Vanguard 32 or 42 or higher than that. And it's just a good solid beat stick. And then rounding it out, 4 copies of Regalia of Ideals, Genel. So Genel has 2 skills. First one is on rearguard. When it attacks a Vanguard, you can have it get +2, and if it does, you go into the soul at the end of the battle, like Dark Side, and then Generation Break 1. When this card is soul blasted, you choose any Regalia unit and give it 3k power. So it is basically a Norn that can be applied to anything, and that's very important because these cards, with their power buffs, max out at 15. However, 1 Genel puts them up to 18, and 2 puts them to 21. Add in any booster on top of that, and you're now hitting for respectable numbers that will demand your opponent to either Perfect Guard or G Guard or throw down 20k shield. And when you're capable of standing your board, it adds up. So I ended up cutting my 10k vanillas for this thing, and I've been really liking what it does so far. You can Soul Blast this out in main phase with some of your cards, and then you can just use these 2 cards to put them back into the Soul, and then Soul Blast them again later. Then for the grade 1s, for Regalia of Frost Jotun, it took 4 years for this subclan to finally get its own Perfect Guard. Just a little side note, because back in the day, you'd have to run the original Genesis Perfect Guard, or your Quintet Wall, and Regalia never got its own Perfect Guard in the Extra Booster, and then we went into the Jeep format, so you had the Flip Perfect Guard and the Revelation Perfect Guard. So yeah, it took a good while, but we finally got one of our own Perfect Guards, and Jotun's pretty good, so first things first, it can only be used on Regalia, so you can't PG your non-Regalia unit, but there's only 2 non-Regalias I'm playing in this deck, so it's whatever. And then her skill is Generation Break 1, bind this card face up. When this card is put into the drop zone from your soul, and if you have another copy of this in the drop zone, you get to add that other copy back. So, long story short, if you have one in drop zone, you soul charge one of these off Angelica, and then you soul blast it out, you can bind it, add this back. It also works if you say discard this and soul blast the other one from your drop zone, from your soul to drop zone, because they'll be in the drop zone simultaneously. And it does come up since we have a means to discard. But yeah, it's a recurring PG, and those are always good. For Regalia Stride Fodder, this acts like normal Stride Fodder, so on call, reveal grade 3 Regalia, search your deck for grade 3 Regalia, add it to hand, discard something. Really great for correcting your ride, and hey, if you're playing the OG Angelica Minerva deck, it allows you to search out Angelica or Minerva if you have one or the other already. For Regalia of Amulets, Expel Angel, skill is, once per turn, you can choose 3 normal units in your drop zone with names other than this card, put them to the bottom of the deck, and if you do, it gets plus 3,000 power as long as you have a Vanguard Regalia in the card name. I believe, or yeah, you need a Regalia Vanguard. And then if you have a face-up card in your G-Zone with Regalia in its card name, you also get to draw a card. So it's a 10k booster at pretty much any point in the game. However, if you have basically if you've already flipped Minerva or Moosebell, then you get an extra draw. So it prevents deck out, which has always been an issue with this, but it also reinforces your hand in order to draw into combo pieces, which is always nice. And then lastly, 2 copies of Regalia, Exorcism Regalia, Shiny Angel. This is from the extra booster from way back when, and its skill is, on call, choose 3 Regalia in your drop zone, put them to the soul. This helps reload your soul, and since this deck tends to soul blast in increments of 3, that means you can soul blast out your Ganels, and then immediately put the back them with Shiny Angel in case you've already got your Freyas and your Braggies in play. Then for the triggers, 4 of the Regalia Heal. This is the effect heal that clans are getting. 4 of the original Regalia Crit, which I should note was in Extra Booster 12. 4 of the new Regalia Crit, which is a retrain of your Malevolent Jin clone, which is Kukuhime. So skill is put into the soul, choose one of your units, it gets plus 3 until end of the turn. However, if you have a face up in the G-Zone, you can also draw a card. which is a really nice take on these things. I'm hoping that if we ever get a new malevolent Jinn, it does the same thing. And then 2 copies of the other Kirkuhime, because Regalia only has 2 different kinds of crits. So you can't even play 12 crit Regalia. You can only play 10 crit Regalia. I mean, 8 crit Regalia, and then like 4 of other crits. So I'm playing Kirkuhime because you can shove it into the soul to buff your units by 3. And then I'm running 2 copies of Dreaming Dragon in order to just shuffle my stuff back in, because I, like the true savage that I am, tend to mill off most of my triggers. So by the time I actually get to Minerva, I almost have no trigs left on deck for my 5 checks. FML. So Dreaming Dragon can be used in conjunction with Minerva or Earth to set up your drop zone filled with triggers, because you'll easily get to 10 cards and drop, and you can just shuffle them back in and then go into an actual Minerva push and try and close out the game. So that's it for the main deck. Moving on to the G zone, we've got 4 copies of the new Minerva Regalia. Well, it's Ultimate Regalia of Almighty Minerva. There we go. So Minerva's skill is Persona Flip, Soul Blast 3 Regalia, plus 10 on a drive. Super easy and free. Oh my lord. So many clans would kill to have Soul Blast 3 and Persona Flip to get 10k in an extra drive, and yeah, Minerva just gets it like that. And another skill is Generation Break 3. Both of these are once per turn, by the way. Generation Break 3, Soul Blast 6 Regalia, and discard a card. When this unit attacks, you may pay the cost. If you do, it gets the new ability of at the end of the battle that this attacked, you can stand all of your Regalia units, and this card gets -3 drive, and yeah, that once per turn. So basically, it is a board restand, and it will get you 5 checks in doing so. It's actually a lot stronger than I thought it was going to be. It's like, oh, she just restands the board. That's nice. When you start seeing things like Freya, Bragi, and Expel Angel onto the board, you're basically going like 26, 26, 36, or 42, or 52, and then you restand, and you swing again at 42, and then you're going 26, 26, and this is not applying triggers. Like, Minerva could do a really good job of pushing your opponent to either death, or just knocking their hand down to almost nothing, which you can try and close out the game with some of your other good strides. And I say that in parentheses because then we have things like Earth, whose skill is Generation Counterblast 1 Persona Flip. When you place this thing on Vanguard and you have a Regalia Heart, you may pay cost. If you do, you choose all the Regalia cards in your drop zone and then put them into the soul. And then your Vanguard then gets the ability of, if you have 2 or more face-up cards in the G zone, act Soul Blast 6, 10 and a crit. So this is one of the cards that allows you to set up a Dreaming Dragon. You can just Soul Blast out all your crits and your heals, and then at the end of the turn just shuffle them back in, and then you can go into a Minerva if it looks like that going into a second strap Minerva is not the correct play. And yeah, it just gets big and scary with lots of crits, and sometimes people just don't have the PG in hand. I've seen this thing hit 50k. So we'll get my rest of the deck out of the way and move on to the rest of the G zone. So 2 copies of Ultimate Regalia of Crimson Muspel, which is your... It's a generic stride, so you can play this in Fenrir or Amaruta or Witches, and its skill is act once per turn, choose a face down G unit, your G zone, turn it face up, Soul Blast any number of cards, then choose rear guards equal to the number of cards Soul Blasted, and they get power +4 until end of turn. If you have Soul Blast 3 or more, you can either draw a card or countercharge. It says Soul Blast any number of cards, but the max amount of units you can choose are 5, because that's all you get for rear guards, at least right now, unless Genesis becomes some kind of weird Excel clan, who knows, but probably not. In any case, yes, so you can Soul Blast anything, but really 5 is all you want to do, unless you just want a Dreaming Dragon. But yeah, like, it doesn't stack, so if you Soul Blast 10, you can't go 4, 4, 4, 4, then 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, and such forth, you know, you only get like that. But it doesn't cost any resources, like no counterblast, it just costs you soul. And if you're going to this, you're probably going to be using Freya or Bragi or Shiny Angel in order to put those cards back into the soul anyway, or you're again setting up for a Dreamy Dragon. So it's there. More importantly, I'm running the 2 copies so I can flip one with the other so that I can turn my Exorcism Angels online. I mean Expel Angels. Then 1 copy of Fenrir, 1 copy of the Generation Break 8, Soul Blast any number of cards. All your units get plus 2,000 power for each card Soul Blasted, and if you Soul Blast 3 or more, this gets 10 and a crit. Oh wait, all your rear guards get plus 2, never mind. So this thing itself only gets like at most 10 and a crit, but hey, it's something. And then Fenrir, you guys all know what Fenrir does. It's kind of like the instigator of a dumb loop. And then Seabreeze. Then running out, we got the G-Guards, 2 copies of the new G-Guard Ire. So when it's placed on guard circle, you can choose up to 4 units in your drop zone with different grades and put them in the soul. If you choose 2, it gets +5. If you choose all 4, then it gets additional 10 on top of that. So 0, 1, 2, 3, and it's a +15 shield. It builds up 4 soul, which is really nice because Minerva turns cost you 9 soul. So, yeah. Then 1 copy of Witch Queen of Accomplishment Loyer. So it's the Flip G Guardian, so pay cost, flip, and then choose up to 3 normal units in your drop zone or soul between them of the same grade. Shuffle them to the deck, and for each card shuffle back in, this gets +5 heal. So it just helps get you to closer to GB8. 1 copy of Iris. This is when it's placed on guard circle, you can choose up to 3 cards in your drop zone, put them to the soul. If you put 3 into the soul, it gets +5,000 shield, so it's just another Ire. And lastly, 1 copy of, oh my lord, I've never tried pronouncing these things before. Hanatsuki. Yeah, Hanatsuki. There we go. So this is from G set 8, and its skill is when it's placed on guard circle, you choose one of your rear guards, and you have a copy of that card in your soul, plus 10,000 shield. Given that Regalia is really good at setting up your soul with specific named units, this is, I feel, is like the easier of the +10 shield G Guardians that you can use. There's also Tag Rule, but I didn't really care for it when I was playtesting this. So that's the deck in a nutshell. Having played Regalia since its inception, it's very refreshing to play the deck again and find that they've actually managed to fix up some of the faults I've had with this deck in the first place. Now, granted, you're still very weak in the early game, but we have more rear guards that actually do things in the early game. Like, a fault I always had with Regalia in the past was, like, you basically did nothing until you rode Angelica, as our 12k attackers needed Regalia Vanguards, and we didn't have very many Regalia Grade 2s, and the Legion deck was really just, like, try and get to Yggdrasil and win off of that. Whereas we have, like, these cards that actually do useful things, and then we've got some useful Grade 1s in the deck, and as a result, yeah, you're just basically playing a aggro beatdown, and that's fine. Like, it's simple, but it gets the job done. If I wanted to play a deck with a really high skill ceiling that demanded my utmost attention, I would go put Night Rose together, because I feel like that's still probably one of the most skill-intensive decks in the game. But in any case, it's a nice blast off pass to be playing basically something that's been around since 2014, and I am very curious to see where they will go with Genesis in Vanguard V. I believe the first boss card of Genesis during the start of Break Right format, because I didn't play the clan even back then. I played during, like, set 14. I believe our first boss monster was Fortuna, and then there was the Artemis Ride Chain. So I could see those two being where Genesis starts, or maybe they'll just, like, say, hey, here's Minerva, but not as Regalia. It's just generic. That'd be cool too. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where they go with Genesis then. And if you're also a Genesis player, comment down below on what you hope they do for this clan. What kind of gift should Genesis be? Should they be Protect or should they be Force? I don't think they would be Excel. It just doesn't really fit their playstyle. I really hope they don't be Protect, because that's what OTT already does, and I feel like Genesis doesn't really need to be doing that. I think Force would be very good for this deck, rather than this clan as a whole, but that's just my opinion. Comment again with yours on what you think they should do. And until next time, this is Boost39, jacking out.